Hey guys, how's it going? Senor T here. Today we're going to be going over the imperfect tense. So it shouldn't be too long of a video. Don't mind the mess around here. Just moved into the new apartment. So, hola, buenas, bienvenidos a la clase. Vamos a hablar sobre el imperfecto. So, en español hay dos tensos for the past. Two tenses for the past. It's going to be the imperfect and the preterite. We've already covered the preterite in the class, so we're going to review now the imperfect. So with the imperfect, it's pretty simple. It's probably going to be a shorter video than the preterite because it's a simpler tense to conjugate at least. Okay? So first I'm going to go over just what the imperfect is for conjugating, and then I'm going to give you what the imperfect tense represents in the past, and so on. Okay? So, how do we conjugate the imperfect? So, you have regular verbs and irregular verbs. The regular verbs, you're going to have one ending for your AR verbs and one ending for your ER and IR verbs. Your ending for your AR verbs, it's going to be over here. It's going to be aba, abas, aba, habamos, habáis, habán. There's going to be an accent in the nosotros form. Okay? For your IR verbs, ER and IR verbs, you're going to have ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ian. They all have accents, every single one. All right? So you might notice for ER and IR verbs that they are the same endings as the conditional, but the difference between the conditional and the imperfect is that the conditional, you don't drop the endings and you add on those ia endings. In the imperfect, you drop the endings and then you add on those endings. So for conjugating purposes, for the imperfect, which is what we're doing, you drop your ending and then you add the abas and you add the ias. All right? So that's basically every single verb in the Spanish language is going to be regular in the imperfect. Okay? So there's only 3 irregulars in the imperfect, which makes your life a lot easier when you're conjugating in the imperfect. Those 3 are going to be ver, ser, and ir. Okay? So let's conjugate them. First one is ver. So for ver, we'll put it up here. It's going to be veía, veías, veía, veíamos, veíais, veían. All of them have accents. Okay? The reason why that one's irregular, it looks regular if you're just glancing at it quickly. The reason why that's irregular is because you're only dropping the R, you're not dropping the ER on ver. So instead of being via, it's veía. Okay? The next one, we'll do ser. It's going to be era, eras, era, éramos, erais, eran. Accent over the nosotros form. Don't forget that. Okay? So I did ver, and ser. So now we'll do ir. So ir is conjugated iba, ibas, iba, ibamos, ibais, iban. There's an accent over the nosotros form in ir. So that's basically it. That's how you're going to conjugate in the imperfect. You have regular verbs and then irregular verbs. There are no stem change, no spell change, and nothing else that's weird, right? So anything else that you're looking at in the preterite, like I keys, U keys, nothing like that. So there's only 2 things. You got your regular verbs and irregular verbs in the imperfect. So it's easier for you. Okay? Now, when you get into the uses of the imperfect, that makes it a little bit more difficult. So when we're conjugating preterite or the imperfect, that makes it a lot more difficult. Okay? So we can go over general uses of the imperfect. Okay? The way that I go over them is I use an acronym. It's called CARPET. Okay? So if you remember the acronym CARPET, then you should be able to remember the general uses of the imperfect. So the first one, the C, okay, it'll appear up here hopefully. So I'll go over here. So the C is going to be used for a characteristic. A is going to be used for age. R is going to be used for repeated or habitual action. The P is going to be used for progressive tense. So if you ever see an ando and an iendo or yendo, you're going to be using the imperfect. The E is going to be used for an emotion. So if you feel an emotion in the past, it's going to be the imperfect. And then T is for time. So altogether, all of these things represent, all of these acronyms represent something that is not defined in the past, okay? The imperfect tense is typically defined as something that is ongoing, habitual, or repeated in the past, or something that has not been completed in the past. So, for instance, an emotion, it's not completed in the past, okay? Or we don't know when it began or when it ended, right? It's an emotion, okay? You might think of time as being something that has completed in the past, but that's why we include it in the acronym, because it's a little bit out there, okay? So if you remember the acronym, then you should be able to get the uses of the imperfect down, okay? Like I said, it's a pretty simple video. It's pretty straightforward. If we're just going to review it very quickly, you have all regular verbs, AR verbs, aba, basa, ba, vamos, abay, saban. ERIR verbs, ias, ia, iamos, ias, ian, accents on all of them. Remember, there's an accent on the nosotros form, accent on every single nosotros form in the imperfect, and then those three irregulars, ser, ver, and ir. Okay? So good luck, and see you soon. Adios, chicos.